Hello, true believers, and welcome to another episode of Marvel Draw. I am your host, Brian Crosby, and today we're going to be drawing one of my favorite little buddies. We're going to be drawing Groot here from Guardians of the Galaxy. Before we dive in, I'm going to walk through the tools of the trade. Got a blank white sheet of paper, got my reference comic book, got my action figure here of Groot, and to draw with, I'm going to be using a blue colored pencil for my underdrawing. And then I have a size B pencil for my line work. And then for the outline or the darker areas, I'm going to use a 6B. Okay, but you can feel free to use whatever it is that you have around the house. As always, you can use crayons, colored pencils, markers, whatever it is that you have available. The point is to have fun and to try something new. All right, so we're going to be drawing Groot's head here. So let's go ahead and dive right in. If you've seen any of our other videos, you know when I draw a humanoid character, I start off with a circle. And even though Groot is a tree-like character, he still has a lot of similar features that humans will have. So I'm going to have him looking off. I'm going to be drawing his head today, looking off to the left here, kind of a 3/4 view. So after my circle, I'll draw a line here. That's going to be the center line of his head. All right, so now we're going to draw his chin. So Groot's got a little chin here that comes off of this circle, not too big. Just a little bit of a cheek there. And then we're gonna come down here and draw the rest of that jawline. So he's a very cute character. So it like do lots of nice round shapes. So this isn't full-size Groot, this is little Groot. All right, so now we're gonna draw that center line going all the way down to the bottom of his chin. Okay, now I'm perfectly bisecting his head. Okay, now let's draw that eye line. So now when you're drawing a normal human character, I usually draw the eyes at about the center. Groot's are slightly lower. So I'm gonna draw them about right there. Gives us a lot of room to play with for this kind of head work up here. So draw that eye line there. And now I'm gonna make a couple of large circles that are gonna be his eyes. And they're spaced out probably a little further than what a normal human's would be, just like that. And then about halfway between this center point and the bottom of his chin, I'm gonna make a little line there, and that's gonna be his mouth line. So these are just construction lines so I can find the forms that I really like, okay? Now for the top of his head, we're gonna come all the way up and angle it off up here and then come back down. So it's kind of coming off at a point. You can come out here a little bit if you like. I draw different probably just about every time I draw Groot's head. He's an organic character. He evolves, he changes, which is one of the things that makes him really fun. Okay, so it's kind of like he's wearing a hat here. Again, these are just construction lines. It doesn't really look like him just yet, but we'll get there. All right, now we're gonna go in and do these eyes. So the eyes, they do come to a point on either side. Keep them nice and big, just like that. And do the same thing on the other side. And they come to a point at the ends. Okay, I'm gonna draw some suggestions of eyelids here. You can draw a full eyelid if you want. I just like to suggest it with a few little lines there, both on the top and the bottom. Now he doesn't have defined eyebrows, it's more of a ridge. And I'm gonna give him a nice happy face. So I'm gonna draw a little bit of an eyebrow ridge up over there and an eyebrow ridge over here. Okay, all right, now for his little mouth. I'm not gonna make it too big, but just kind of a small mouth. He's gonna be smiling for us, just like that. And yes, Groot does have little teeth inside his mouth. So I'm gonna draw a top row of teeth. And you see it's just really just a rectangle that I'm drawing inside that mouth there. And then I'll divide it up. I like to show each and every one of his little teeth that he has in his mouth. Now for the top. Okay, so we're gonna start to define this top line here. So this is bark that flares up and it's nice and cracked in different places. Some of the cracks come down a little further, okay? And you can just be loose and organic with it and find shapes that you like. I like to have this one just be the tallest one. Maybe want a smaller one here, maybe come up a little bit higher. So I like to vary the edges of that. And then that comes all the way down and creates that little ridge like that. So you can draw it however you want, whatever feels comfortable for you. So I'm gonna add a little bit more variety to this. You can maybe see the back side of this ridge, so there's a little bit of dimension to it, just like that. All right, so with that, I think we've got a pretty good underdrawing for our little Groot head here. We do a little lip line underneath. So I'm gonna set aside my blue colored pencil and I'm gonna take out my B pencil. All right, so again, you use whatever it is that you have there. And I'm gonna really just go over the lines that I've already drawn. So I'm gonna start with this, his left eye. I'm gonna create that shape, defining that more fully now, using my blue line as a guide. Here's the bottom eyelid. Okay, now he does have brown eyes, but it's kind of very black inside. All right, so I'm going to do a smaller circle inside there. And when I do this in color, you'll see how the outside, what would be white on human eyes, is actually kind of a brown color with Groot. And I'm gonna do some highlights here, and I'm gonna color these in black. Just like that, there we go. So there's one eye. And I can do my little ridge right there. And that'll become more apparent once we do all the bark lines on him. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this, his right eye. So again, just tracing over the lines I already drew. A little suggestion of an eyelid, both on the top and the bottom. Here's our little ridge. Now we're gonna come in and do the inside of that eye. So some highlights and color that in black. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and outline everything else that we did already. So we're gonna go around that top ridge, find some places to maybe shoot down some extra cracks in the top of his head. And he does have a small suggestion of an ear inside, so not a fully formed human ear the way we would draw it on a human character, but there is a little bit there. Draw his little jawline. See, I'm just really going over the lines that I already drew. That's why your construction lines really help. Let's come in and do this mouth. So we're going to draw over those lines, not too big. You can make a little bit of a crease maybe at the edge, but I wouldn't go too crazy with it. You can come in and draw these little teeth in here. It's looking super cool, super fun. Color in the inside of that mouth and a little lip line underneath. Looks super cute. Okay, so now let's come back up and finish up the top of his head. So we're going over our lines, shooting down where we like. Just like that. We're gonna use this B pencil to do a lot of the detail inside as well. So now I'm gonna set aside my B pencil. I'm gonna take out my 6B and I'm gonna do a harder outline around the edge of this. So we're gonna keep tracing along that top edge. This is where I'll start to make a little extra detail here. So that can be in shadow where it's behind there. Gives a little bit of dimension to it. This is all in shadow back here. So let's go around the outside here, create a nice outline. Really help him pop off the page. There's a nice outline for Groot. And now I'm gonna take my B pencil back out and now I'm gonna make some of these bark lines. And the way you do that is just going all the way down the contours of his face. And you don't I try not to do like just straight lines where it looks like he has pinstripes. You know, where his ear is, like kind of go around that. But I'll do things like this. See how I'll come on and off the page. To me, that helps add a little bit of variety to what's happening with the bark, but it is all the way across his whole head. So this can be a little time consuming. That's okay. You're just having fun drawing. But see how even at the bottom of his chin, I'll curve that up. So I'm using the contour of his face to create those lines. Again, not just pinstripes. And it might look kind of weird while you're doing it, but trust me, in the end, it'll look fine. So you just keep doing that. Just be patient. One of the other things that he has is he's got some fungus kind of around that top there. A lot easier to do when you're doing this in color. When you're doing it in pencil, there's different tricks that you can do. One is to add what we used to call stipple back when I was in college, which is essentially dots like this. Doing a lot of stipple, you know, or creating areas of shadow and light will help you create some of that kind of fungus look. You can use your heavier pencil if you've got one, or a marker. You can create some of that fungus up there on the top. Adds a little bit of texture to the top of his head. So I'm gonna come back in here, do these a little darker. Maybe a little bit of fungus texture over here. A little stipple action. Just around the tops. So we're going to come in the middle of his head here. So again, remember I had more lines underneath this ridge. It creates a little bit of shadow. So I'm not drawing an eyebrow, but just a ridge. We're going to come across the front of his face here. The big thing with Groot is to really just have patience. With Groot, you have to draw that bark texture, and it can just take a while. And in some of the areas where you maybe want a little bit more shadow, you can come in and do some extra line work. You know, the more you go over the lines, the more it'll create some of those dark areas. So maybe on this back side of his head, it's okay to do a little bit of that. So I'm gonna come back up here, keep going with my texture. See how some of my lines are wavy, some are straight. Try to make things a little uneven, so maybe a little bit of shadow under here, under that chin. Go along the contour of that face. Okay, so we're gonna come under here, under that ridge. Do a bunch of lines there. Kind of nearing the end here. Looking pretty good. He's got a lot of great texture there. But one of my favorite features of Groot is he has this ability to grow little plants at different points of his body. Sometimes he has them pop them out of his shoulder or his arm, but he's got one in particular that comes up right here from his head. So I'm gonna draw that in and then draw a couple little leaves on the end, just like that. Okay, so there you have it. There is our little Groot drawing. But those of you who have joined us in the past, you know you're never quite done until you sign your name. That's what makes it yours. So I'm gonna put my name right here. Brian Crosby. So hope you guys had fun drawing along with me. Keep working at it, keep practicing. And remember, this is Marvel, your universe.